you so much for joining us today. Before we kick this off, I do want to point out to the audience that we welcome questions. Please utilize the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Type in questions as they come up, and we will get to those questions after today's presentation. So I'd now like to turn this over to Steven Saltzstein, Force Family Office's CEO.
Thank you, Callie, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. We have a fantastic symposium with Cloudcover with Stefan Cardeau. And, the one thing I will say is all of this data, if you saw Oracle's results today, what Cloudcover is doing is so brilliant because at the packet level, they are ensuring every one of these data packets. And so that's safety in itself, right? Keeping people from cyber threats, etc. That's just the beginning of that description. But what it also does is create an opportunity for a data exchange, and it's brilliant. And here to tell you more is Stefan Cardeau, CEO of Cloudcover. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you, Stephen. It's exciting to be here, guys. I'm also the founder of the organization, and quite frankly, starting to look into this new relationship that we're devising and creating as we move into the data, i.e. insurance industry. So let me start off real quick here. Can you imagine a world where every piece of your data is insured and protected? Every file you send, every transaction you process, every byte flowing through your network is secured by design and insured real time. Now, with that, I'd like to actually look at this a little bit further. Imagine a world where the data itself becomes a tradable asset, moving in real time like stocks and bonds. This is not science fiction. It's what Cloudcover is building today. By combining next generation cloud security, data insurance, and real-time protection, Cloudcover is transforming your data from a liability into a fully protected value-generating asset. Cloudcover is not just an upgrade. It's a completely new way of thinking about cybersecurity by combining AI-powered defense, zero trust automation, and real-time threat prevention. Cloudcover doesn't react to the threats. It neutralizes those attacks, if you will, that begin at the edge of the network. Traditional security can't keep up with today's ransomware risks, supply chain attacks, identity breaches. The future is predictive. It is proactive. It is layered protection. The future is basically what we are calling Cloudcover today. Now, if we're looking at basically the problem, at a glance, AI-based attack speeds are measured in milliseconds. The legacy defenses just can't keep up. Therefore, there is a risk gap. The risk gap basically is so significant and so considerable that there is an area in the world of cyber attacks called underreported or unreported cyber attacks. Now, in the reported cyber attacks, we're looking at 20, maybe $30 billion of overall, understood costs. But actually, the real cost in the world of what we call downstream or silent cyber damages is approximately 1.2 trillion in 2025. We see that literally growing with no slowdown in sight to approximately 11 trillion by 2030. Now, what we're talking about in terms of the entire platform, in terms of the business model Cloudcover represents, we break it down into three categories or tenets. We refer to them as risk aware, risk control, and risk transfer. Now, risk aware is the AI-based, AI-engineered security threat detection of our platform. We've been developing that technology for approximately 5 to 6 years. We've been testing it year over year and have been going through penetration tests and have passed approximately 57 penetration tests to date. Now, the risk control concept is basically the threat detection, threat prevention It's actually the neutralization or the automation of the threat prevention. This happens literally faster than a SOC, faster than a security operating center or a human. This is actually acting in milliseconds. And it does it so accurately that it's actually able to have a zero false positive rate of approximately 99.999% accuracy. Risk transfer. This makes up the embedded cybersecurity insurance feature set. What we are referring to here is basically it's data insurance in essence. It's cyber on one conventional side and it's data insurance on the unconventional side. It's fully embedded into the security technology stack we call Cloudcover. Here is a picture or an image of the breakdown between the two realities, risk-aware control being the cybersecurity, and then risk transfer is becoming the insurance revenues. Now, when we are referring to the technology, it's a subscription-based SaaS model or PaaS model, platform as a service, software as a service. And it's also basically able to function as an on-premise device, if you will. It actually operates natively, very comfortably in the cloud. And then we talk about the insurance. The insurance basically is literally watching data packets in real time as the actual cybersecurity is looking at basically inspecting data packets at the edge of the network as well as inside your network. Now we're looking at growth. Growth basically is taking off in a way that is actually, quite frankly, combining the three tenets we're talking about. It's a multi-billion-dollar revenue potential. Approximately, 3.4 or 314 billion next year is projected. And we're looking at the numbers that are going to be year over year, increasing by about 10 to 12%. The CAGR for the cybersecurity marketplaces right now around, give or take 9.5 to 12%, averaging around 10% year over year, very consistently growing in a way that is going to reach approximately 380 billion by 2029. On the insurance side, cybersecurity insurance is actually one of the most emerging, most potential promising insurance product categories. Now it's increasing approximately 24 to 25%. 25% is between now and 2030. That process or that trajectory provides us a so-called point of reference in our revenue stream or our projected revenue opportunities here, where we're looking at approximately a growth of 3x from 2027 to 2028, and then from 28 to 29, 3 to 3.4% or 3x. And then from there off to basically we call the sky's the limit, so to speak. Technically, that's representing about 14,200 customers in 2030, 1.7 billion of revenue. Makes up about 1% or 1/10 of 1%, excuse me, of the global market. If it's translated in the North American market, we're looking at about 1/2 of 1%. If we combine the two, then we're looking at about $3.4 billion of revenue. Now, the path to market is actually, quite frankly, just 4 categories or 4 environments: product strategy, revenue model, sales channel, global sectors. Now, on our revenue side, on the right, we're looking at subscription-based as a software as a service. Now, it's also a white label opportunity where we can go to our so-called quote unquote security competition and license our technology and our solution to them and sell it through them like a distributor, if you will. We also have a number of patents that they're actually infringing upon. Right now, to this date, we have approximately 57 very large enterprises. You probably recognize most of the names that are in the IT space, i.e., AWS, Splunk, Nokia. They're all infringing on our patents. Now, we're not going to go trolling after them. We're actually going to approach them and actually convince them to license our technology, because what we're going to bring in, they can't perfect or provide, which is the cyber insurance, the data insurance. That's where this turns into a complete new reality. The data asset risk exchange is actually a icing on the cake, if you will, the cherry on top, that the opportunity of being able to provide that so-called unique, driver of risk exchange is actually going to be only possible when you actually have the measurement and the scoring and the transfer of risk on an incremental basis for data, i.e. travel insurance for data. That's where it becomes a game changer. On the sales channel side, just like this distributors that everybody else works with, the security product would be provided in that space. Right now, we are engaged with a number of cloud service partners that are just being prepared, ready to go. We're just simply got to push the button and take off. We've been testing a lot in the conventional, cloud services like Microsoft Azure and Office 365 will be able to actually underwrite and insure that entire infrastructure. Right now, the insurance industry does not know how to do that. It's because they can't measure it. They don't know how to assess that risk environment or venue. As for a very significant opportunity, we're talking about also engaging the telecom or the telco space. We're engaged with a number of entities that are actually right now, I would call them standard making bodies. And we've been talking with them for the last 3 years, preparing our go-to-market and actually take off, if you will, in Q4 of this year, Q1 of 2026. And then, of course, the cyber insurance providers. That's where we basically are engaged with not just the insurance carriers that you conventionally know the names of, the Aons and the Marshes and the Chubbs and the Hickscocks and others that are actually moving around in the London markets, but we're talking about reinsuring. We actually understand reinsurance where we would actually participate and deploy our product as not just an insurance solution that could be licensed and sold and brokered through the conventional insurance industry, but also reinsured and actually provide a capability that actually talks about captive insurance. And this is where we're basically would be operating in the global sectors like telco, healthcare, government, legal, and you can imagine all the other areas that we're talking about here. Now, I'm just going to wrap up again and just remind everybody that the differentiation of our solution is one that it's been fully tested. It's passed almost every single penetration test that most other entities basically are a little gingerly about moving into, such as the US DoD, the Rochester Institute of Technology, Stanford. As you kind of go down the list, we were actually tested by all of those environments. Since then, we've actually been upgrading and updating our software platform all this last 6 months. And we're now at a point where we're integrating the blockchain solution. And we've been testing it for the last 3 years, but now we're actually ready to go to market with it in 2026, January, February, give or take. Fully patented, embedded cybersecurity data insurance. We're the only entity in the world that actually possesses this patent. It's issued. It was fully vetted about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And it is, again, it's very unique in that it's actually blockchain engineered or based. I was one of the early stage individuals showing up at the Ethereum, environment. And I was one of the very first community participants back in 2011, 2012. And when we basically were there, we were not even aware of what we were going to call it. When we decided to, pick the name, Ether, everybody said, okay, let's call it Ether. And I was, cool with that. But I expected or suggested that we call it Ether with a Latin term, which is spelled A-E-T-H-E-R. But, I was voted out and they went with E-T-H-E-R. As for the captive insurance environment, we are domiciled in Hawaii as a captive insurance reinsurer. Everything is just set to go. We haven't actually pushed any product out. We did some testing about 2.5 years ago with Munich Re, where they got behind us and actually participated in some captive insurance solutions. We actually attached it as an underwriting product, and we could underwrite ransomware as an insurable solution. Now, since then, you've heard about maybe ransomware insurance in the last 2 years or so. They basically got that idea from us. We were the first to market in that space, but we were holding back as we didn't want to jump into the data insurance until we were ready to actually push that button. Here we are, and now we have the idea of Cloudcover as a data asset risk exchange. So one thing begets the other, and as we step into the space, we believe we're going to be a differentiator by significant bounds and a disruptor, if you will. Now, funds, use of proceeds, you can see the numbers. We're looking at about 40% of the revenue that's or raise that we're going to be considering here. We're looking at a 10 million raise with a 5 million oversubscription as a possibility. And we're dividing up our research and development and sales channel services. So when you get right down to it, approximately 60% of our funds are going to be used for marketing and sales and product distribution, if you will. I appreciate your time on hearing our story. We've got more to discuss and describe. We've got a great sales team, and we've got some very, very seasoned executives that are actually sitting in a place to say, give us something to do, and we're going to move out, and we're going to actually do some pretty fascinating things in 2026. Thank you for your time, and I'm open for questions.
Great. Thank you so much. With regards to the claim that some of the largest companies in the world are infringing on your IP, how much are you budgeting for legal representation to try to take them on?
We have a relationship with our IP attorneys, Spencer Fane, out of Minneapolis, and they've got offices all over the world. Most of them are in North America. We've already engaged a group out of I would say the Texas arena that are going to finance the patent litigation. And they're actually planning on taking a contingency fee of about 25 to 40%. And we basically, they're financing the whole, shebang. We're going to actually go out with a 4 so-called knock on the doors patent infringement notices before the end of this year. Approximately November is the date we're looking at. We don't want to go running at them and throw legal references at them. We want to approach these entities, very significant names. I don't want to get into those names. I mentioned just a few minutes ago. We want to actually approach them with let's work together, let's cooperate, let's consider licensing this technology so we can bring in the cybersecurity insurance for data that you people don't know how to do, and we could actually share that revenue with you also, possibly.
And what is the basis of the infringement?
SOAR, Security Orchestration Automation Response. We were the first to actually patent SOAR before Gartner even had an identification for it in 2010, 2011.
And then regarding your patents, how is the portfolio, or are the patents enforceable? Are your
okay.
No,
Say again.
If you could just expand a little bit on your IP and
12 patents, 5 issued. The pendings basically are in the world of, I would call them not just security, but also measurement. One of the patents is a patent, was a very first one, 2006, give or take 2007. Of course, there's not too many more years left on that first patent. That's the one that actually is the first technology patent that actually majority of the infringers are involved with. Then there's a second that came behind it around 2009. And then a third that we basically are very interested or very excited about, which right now nobody's infringing on. It's a third technology patent, which is a DoD product. It's a distributed denial of service product that actually is very unique. It actually deflects and reflects an attack vector with a certain method that, quite frankly, is we think we could actually approach people like Cloudflare and license that technology, that solution to them.
Great, thank you. And how are you able to perfect the packet level insurance while AWS and others can't?
Imagination. Quite frankly, it comes back to why not? Sometimes technology has a tendency, technologists look at certain things that say you can't go there, you can't go here. I didn't actually look at it that way. My background, quite frankly, I started back in IT in 1991 when the internet began. I was designing some of the very first websites, and people were like looking at me going, "What is a website?" And then we basically designed and I engineered the very first web version of an online bank before even Microsoft Money came out. I put Quicken and QuickBooks online in 1994, 95, and people didn't really understand why you'd do that, because everybody had a desktop. And so when we started to move into the space, I was always asking the question, why not do this? Why can't we perfect this? And so I actually came up with this idea of data insurance. When I was working at Riggs Bank, we were actually putting them online, the Bank of the Presidents across from the White House. And we were downstairs, and we were actually engaged with looking at some pretty sensitive transactions. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Riggs Bank is where most of the treasury of all the monies of the entire United States move through. And we basically came up with a requirement that we would actually have to actually underwrite and insure the data. Somebody looked at me and said, "That's not possible." Well, I patented it back then, started the very first patent in 2000, 1999 actually. And then the idea was basically, how do we actually track and stack, or if you will, stain the data packet? And we were able to stain the data packet with a SHA-256 hash. And by doing so, you could actually tag the data at the packet level, watch it move through the so-called transmission environment, the TCP/IP environment, and the TLS handshake. And when it hits the other destination point, it would actually say, "We're here," and basically send a reply SYNAC to our servers. And we would actually know that it actually successfully got there, untouched, no man in the middle, secured. Or if it was encrypted, we would actually know whether somebody tried to copy it or hack it or whatever. So we were able to pick up on basically delay, what we call packet interference, if you will. And so those days, all the way up to this moment in time, there's one thing that happened in the middle. It was called blockchain. And so because I was very interested in things that had to do with immutable recording, when the blockchain concept or idea came to reality in 2009, 10, people were talking about it as something that could be used for recording. And so I approached the insurance industry, and I basically educated Munich Re, Hartford, about what blockchain is, and that they could use it to actually record policies. And they could record policies in an immutable way that basically couldn't be interfered with. So again, that goes up to 2012. Now we're up to 2016. And the idea of putting all this together was re-engineered again. And I created a new patent, the patent we have today, the insurance patent based on blockchain. And it's the only one in the world that is able to do this. Now, why does an AWS and their engineers figure this out before? Again, imagination. Why not?
Great. And can you talk about the data exchange? How would this work?
I kind of like to keep that one a little high level for right now. It's very sensitive. There's a lot of proprietary. We don't even want to patent it. We do have a patent that is being prepared and readied, but the asset exchange would basically have to be supported by a blockchain, an immutable registry, if you will. Now, customers and their data are somewhat, not connected. I know that they're basically, people are using cloud services and they're using Office 365 to send emails, and they're using Gmail and all sorts of other methods and systems. We would actually have control over the understanding of where that data is moving if we're involved with that client, that customer of ours. And we would then have to, of course, convince the customer. They would have to ask, we want to insure our data. We would insert that. That information is actually going to be registered into what I call a super blockchain registry. In that term, in that environment, it would actually be able to reveal real-time risk feature sets of data transactions and transmissions in real time across the global infrastructure. And as it grows, it would actually eventually become a standard for understanding all risk of all data moving, secured, and insured. And therefore, because it's insured, we believe under certain international financial reporting standards that it could be considered a bookable asset because it's operationally working as a OPEX product or an OPEX valued asset. And so we believe a company could actually book that value on their balance sheet. And that number would actually also be compared to our blockchain sitting in the super blockchain registry. And therefore, you'd match the two and be able to understand the potential value of data risk on a real-time basis on the global footprint.
Thank you. What is involved in a penetration test? Are they standardized, and who conducts them?
Penetration tests are somewhat standardized. MITRE and others are basically kind of the gold standard. And we were involved with them when we were actually doing some presentations at the U.S. Air Force out of Colorado Springs. And that was in 2020 when we were basically representing the product that we currently have today has been, tested and several times looked at by the folks at RIT and a company called Lodestone out of Texas, some folks out of Stanford, and they all do it a little bit differently, but in essence, what they are attempting to do is basically set the system up or whatever the considered product is. They provide or create a so-called artificial honeypot environment, which is basically a network that you're supposed to protect, and they attack it, and they try to actually penetrate. It's referred to the red team, blue team sort of environment, and we always become the so-called, why do we always get stopped within milliseconds even trying to actually attack you? And we said, well, it's because we actually see you. We identify your anomaly. And they get frustrated. We've had a couple entities that have even accused us of turning off our network for some reason. We said, how can we do that? You guys are actually controlling it. You guys have, complete, capabilities of, blocking us out and not even allow us to look at it. And so we've had some interesting reactions to people on the penetration side, especially the folks at RIT.
Great. So there's a comment here about most conventional insurance companies make as much or more from investing their premiums versus actually profiting on insurance operations. Does this apply to you as well?
Oh, yes, it can. Oh, yes. And actually, it's what we would call written premium. Right now, the insurance industry is currently writing about 3 times what's called, raise or premium dollars coming in. We believe under the risk transfer method we're doing, we actually can write 10x, maybe even 12x premium. The reason why is we've been actuarializing our solution for quite some time. And the actuarial studies, and one of them is actually an actuary out of Kansas City who actually was working with Swiss Re on their cybersecurity insurance initiatives about 5 years ago, came away and said, the claims that actually are not going to be instituted are going to be, quite frankly, about 1/10, if not 1/20th, the ratio that conventional insurance is actually, occurring right now. It's about 40% to 50% of the premium is actually claimed against, if you will. We're looking at less than maybe 3%. So when you're talking about reinvesting revenues that come into the insurance industry, this would light that on fire. It would actually make it even more potentially profitable.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about how much capital have you raised to date, and from who? And then talk about the valuation that you're raising the 10 million at. Is it a direct sale of shares, safe, convertible, and what is the minimum investment?
So I'll see if I can answer the valuation one first. We're valued at approximately, in a way that I would call this discounted, between 38 and 50 million. Now, that's based on what we believe the value of our vision and our IP, not on the ARR. Now, if you believe in our vision, this so-called investment we call the preferred stock offer, it's a Series A, and we've raised about 7.1 million to date, very, very judiciously. We haven't really gone out over our skis and started talking about giving away the entire equity position of our entire organization. We've kept it kind of close. We have several very, very high net worth individuals that have invested over the last 6 years, 7 years. Obviously, the family and friends, the seed and everything that precedes it. I've invested approximately $1.4 million of my own personal dollars. And then I basically have been moving in the space with the rest of this so-called investment position. Right now, we're raising basically 10 million on a preferred stock offer. It's going to have a dividend paying position. There is a plan to raise another 50 million for the insurance next year, approximately spring, to actually not be burnt, but to be used for leveraging to write premium. So there is going to be basically a so-called, hybrid AB technology right now, and then insurance preceding it next year. Now, the minimum right now, is 50,000. We're looking at I would call it a spiff, if you will. The first 5 million, we're going to give it a special conversion ratio. This preferred offer is actually going at $10 per share. Conversion ratio is 5x to common. We're thinking about and considering providing the first 5 million an option, or either a 10x conversion to common, or 1.5 million stock options or warrants valued at $1 per share. If we are looking at the value of our organization on its entirety and its potential, the revenue access in the next 2 to 3 years puts us at north of about 80 to 90 million in terms of value. So what we are doing is we're projecting out 1 to 2 years in terms of ARR.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about the team that you have and their backgrounds?
John Reardon, here on the call with me, is my Chief Marketing Officer. He's been with me for over 16 years. We met in Wisconsin, Marius, and we have a technology team. It's been basically moving from where it was about 4 or 5 years ago to a new, completely younger, much more fresher team out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Gentleman's name is Mehdi, and Mehdi Mertash, and he's a CIO, CTO, CISO. He's a brainiac. He writes C++ in his sleep, so to speak. And then there's a gentleman we call our Chief Financial Officer. He's actually acting as our CFO. His name is Gordon Jessup. He's also on the phone here or on the call, I believe. But in either case, we're at a point right now where the team has been working together in a way that we can even finish each other's sentences, with the idea that technology is obviously enabling. But when it comes to our resume and our backgrounds, one thing we do have all in common, and we have a passion and we have optimism that we are going to be changing significantly a problem or solving a problem that the cybersecurity and the insurance industry has not figured out. And this team, and there's others, I would call them advisors, folks that actually have significant seasoned backgrounds. They go back to like 30 to 40 years. My background is 30 to 35 years. John has been in the space for about 25 years. And Gordon has been in his so-called venue for about, I'd say, north of about 35 years. So we're feeling pretty pumped that we've got the right team, the right attitude, and the right mix to pull this thing off.
Great. And can you talk a little bit about your marketing and sales plans, what they look like to achieve your goals, and what are the key milestones for you over the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, on the deck, I believe I explained how we're actually looking at sales channels, multiple sales channels. We're involved with a group that, quite frankly, is pretty exciting. It's called was called MEF. Now they're called Amplify. We're a member of Amplify, and Amplify is an entity that actually is all those telcos. I mean, every telco in the world is a member of Amplify. AT&T, Orange, British Telecom, Verizon, T-Mobile, you name it. Even the folks down in South America, Africa, overseas, they're all there. The standards making body is basically where they're looking for a differentiator, such as what we are offering. And we're embedding and planning to embed through our relationships with them, as well as some folks at Equinix, to basically deploy our solution, and another group called Ariaka Networks out of San Francisco, to make our product a platform as a service, software as a service, available to anybody and everyone that actually wants to access this through a cloud solution. As for our categories and our so-called industry areas, right now we are actually protecting governments, banks, a number of small hospitals, and some education, school districts, and so forth. We really are going to be leaning in more and more into what's called the digital cities environment. That concept came up about 6, 7 years ago, and we were at Stanford looking at that as an opportunity. We believe that is where most of the new risks are going to be, and that environment's where connected auto. You've got sensors everywhere around on the buildings and so forth. All of this data is basically Wi-Fi and 5G, 6G eventually. It's all exposed, and we need to secure it all. And that's where we believe we are going to be the differentiator. And we're going to change the way risk is actually, addressed.
Great. Well, that concludes the questions. I do want to point out to the audience, if you have additional questions or would like to get connected to Cloudcover, everyone has my email address. Please email me and I'll be happy to connect you. In turn, they will have all of your information as well. And Stefan, excuse me, I just want to turn it back over to you for any final words before we close out.
I just appreciate the opportunity with Force to basically have a venue to present this idea. Now, we have been taking advantage of a number of investor relationships. We do have a family office that's behind us right today. If you're interested in knowing more about that individual, that entity, they're out of Canada, Calgary, and they are one of our senior investors. Right now, at this point in time, the whole idea has all been set up, ready to go, and we're now pushing to raise the very large capital that we need to do to expand and scale this across the global sector. So I appreciate the opportunity from Force. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.